Hi, I'm Dr. Rudy Cashman, neurosurgeon in Fort Wayne, Indiana for 40 years. But I'm only 39 years old. I'm here to teach you tonight in my favorite subject, which is wellness. I, for example, look at it from all aspects, from the diet to avoiding operations, avoiding medications, avoiding excessive injections. I even formed the Mind-Body Index, which is to my left and to your right, which speaks about illnesses that are caused by chronic stress. And I'm trying to teach you how to avoid those, how to eat a proper diet, how to get rid of vascular disease, how to get rid of heart disease. I can teach you to get rid of type 2 diabetes 90% of the time in 60 days, for example. So I have a series of lectures on this and DVDs that I have available for you. But how do I get you to change your way of eating, your way of exercising towards wellness? And that really is the trick. And that takes some motivation. So tonight's lecture is about motivation, how to motivate ourselves, how to motivate myself, for example. How do you motivate another person? There's probably 100 different ways to motivate somebody. We all have our own way of responding to what someone else is trying to suggest to improve a sense of wellness. I mean, what is wellness? I mean, that's very interesting. What is wellness? It's happiness, it's joy, it's mental health, that we don't have anxiety, that we don't have depression, that we feel good every day, that we're energetic. It's physical health. If you don't have physical health, it's hard to feel well. It's on us all day, every minute of the day, for example. So if a lot of physical health, frankly, is due to habits that we have. I'd say 75–80% of the people that I treat need coaching. They don't need an injection. They don't need an operation. They don't need narcotics. They need wellness. So about 75% of the patients that I see, that most doctors see, I tell them, I'm your coach. I'm now your coach. And I lead them towards a wellness regimen. But it takes different things to motivate people. I gave a talk on this recently at the State Chiropractic Association. And at the end of the talk, one of the chiropractors stood up and said, well, Dr. Cashman, it's real nice you teach us all this, but how long are our patients going to follow what you suggest? I think it's a very fair question. So I took a great interest in motivation. I mean, I think I'm a motivating person, for example. But is it for a day or an hour? Or is it for a year? And that's the point. So I studied the subject a great deal. I'm going to share this information with you tonight. And motivation and wellness includes also physical health, a loving family, financial stability, how to feel well if you're broke and can't pay the bills, which a lot of people have this problem today. So there's a lot of stress out there. And to have some friends, surrounded by friends, I think we all like that. And I feel very lucky. I have about 10 good female friends, 10 about good male friends, and a good wife and children. So it's good to have friends and a loving family. So let's go on with the show here a little bit. And I think the main thing to motivate a person, I think we have to have some good self-esteem. You got to feel good about yourself. So it's hard for you to get up and do the things like to exercise, to eat the right food, to change your habits, to smoke less, to take less drugs, less alcohol. If you don't feel good about yourself, you're taking these things a lot of times because you don't feel good about yourself. So self-esteem really is the immune system of consciousness. It's really the immune system, like you have immunity in your blood. This is immunity of your brain, self-esteem. So you need to do a self-evaluation of yourself. I mean, what am I trying to do in life? What am I trying to accomplish? So the level of our own self-esteem influences how we act. There's no question about it. We feel great about ourselves. We look for great things to do, to improve our health, to help other people. But if we don't feel good about ourselves, that's just not going to happen. So you have to learn to trust one's mind to know that one is worthy of happiness, and it's the essence of self-esteem. If you don't feel worthy of changing your habits, for example, you're not going to do it. You're not going to get off the couch and start doing it. So confidence in our ability to think, to help ourselves is very important. I find this today, for example, I saw a patient who lost her sister yesterday from smoking, and another sister who's dying from cancer also. And she had, frankly, I had a heck of a time trying to convince her to stop smoking. And I noticed she didn't have any confidence. Spent a lot of time with her. So we have to understand that we have some ability to cope. If you have no self-confidence, you can't cope with the problem. And but it's our right to be successful and happy. We have to realize that. We're entitled to assert our needs and our rights and develop self-esteem, to achieve our values, enjoy the fruits of our efforts. That's all related to self-esteem. We have to have self-respect. If we don't respect ourselves, we're not going to change. We're not going to change. And if you have high self-esteem, you're much more likely to persist in the face of difficulties that are facing you. You had a heart attack, but you're 50 pounds overweight. If you don't have good self-esteem, I doubt you're going to lose some weight or start exercising. So if you have high self-esteem, you'll persist at a task significantly longer than when you have low self-esteem. If you have low self-esteem, you may last a day or two. But if you have high self-esteem, you may stick with it for a few years till your habit or changes, or your weight changes, or you're exercising more, or you've got a bigger career. So you have to respect yourself and require others to deal with me respectfully. You expect other people to respect you for what you're doing. If you're still overweight, you can't be making nasty remarks. They have to treat you respectfully that you're accomplishing small goals. If you have low self-esteem, you're more likely to give up or go through the motions of trying to go through it without really giving it your best. You're not going to give your best if you don't feel good about yourself. So if I lack self-respect and consequently accept discourtesy, abuse, exploitation from others, that's natural. My self-respect deteriorates. You have to stand up for yourself. What's the impact of self-esteem? The profound consequences of aspect of our existence, how to deal with people, how high we elect to rise up in our life, how much we're likely to achieve, depends on the self-esteem. My mother put self-esteem in me at a very young age. She started calling me doctor at age 5, for example. I think I frankly achieved much more than I think I could have or would have if it hadn't been for my mother. She made me feel good about myself at a very young age. So it's very important to do this to your children, and especially to yourself. I have a nurse that brings their child to the office constantly, and I could see the child kind of had the head low a little bit and didn't have a lot of self-esteem. So I started calling this little 6-year-old doctor every day. And I said, Dr. Bryan, I called him every day, and he came. And I noticed through the months, now he looks for me to walk in the room, and he starts smiling, and he knows I'm going to say something nice about him, building up his self-esteem. So that's important. So a healthy self-esteem correlates with rationality, realism, creativity, flexibility, ability to manage change. Poor self-esteem correlates with irrationality, blindness to reality. We keep on smoking, keep on overeating. When you have low self-esteem, we realize we're destroying ourselves. Rigidity, inappropriate conformity, or inappropriate defensiveness, over-controlling behavior, and fear of hostility towards others. Become much more hostile to other people if we have slow self-esteem. If people who have slow self-esteem are most likely to be prejudiced and say nasty things about other groups and make racial remarks if you yourself don't have good self-esteem. People with high self-esteem don't tend to do that. And so a person with high self-esteem seeks the knowledge and stimulation of worthwhile and demanding goals, and are better equipped to cope with troubles in our careers and lives if you have high self-esteem. If something goes wrong, you don't just give up. You make a plan and you keep on going. Better able to pick up ourselves after a fall. We all fall throughout our life. I had them. I got fired one time, and I'll talk about that later. I didn't drop the ball. I kept right on going. We tend to be more ambitious if we have high self-esteem. And you tend to be more comfortable with persons whose self-esteem level resembles your own. You're more comfortable with people that have achieved things. More likely to treat others with respect and fairness. So self-esteem is very important. But motivation leads to short-term goals. But you need long-term goals. And if you develop a sense of purpose, you're much more likely to develop good long-term goals. You have a better life if you have a purpose in your life. I feel so lucky. I'm in my 70s, frankly, and not in the low 70s. But I have a big sense of purpose. I'm trying to bring wellness to our community and maybe nationally. And I write and I read and I do surgery and I play in tennis tournaments. I have a sense of purpose. I give a lot to charity, for example. And it really brings a joy to my life. I hope you're that lucky. if you have a sense of purpose at any age, to just retire have no purpose, it's not good for you. It's not good for you. You're going much more likely to be ill, for example. So if you're going to retire, have a sense of purpose right away. Find something to do. Develop long-term goals. Short-term goals need to be replaced by long-term goals. More likely to result in a permanent change in you. What's your long-term goal? You weigh 300 pounds now. You like to weigh 180. And that's your long-term goal. So visualize it. Start working at it. You have poor health, heart disease, cancer. These things can be turned around. You can live longer with positive thinking. And so make a long-term goal and develop a picture of it. And so motivation solves short-term goals, but for long-term results, you must find a purpose in your life. Rick Warren wrote a book, A Purposeful Life. I think it's a very good book to read because he hit on the main subject. And I think it's a very good book to read. When fearful, we go for quick fixes. What are quick fixes? Drugs, cigarettes, food. That's a quick fix. You know, get a stressed out day, drive down the road, stop at the first fast food restaurant, and eat some French fries. Don't do it. That leads to obesity, and it's a very poor thing to do. Some people take drugs. Some people, for a quick fix, light up a cigarette. And these are mind chemicals. These are mind chemicals. And leads only to more problems, poor health, loss of jobs. For example, I used to give lectures to about 100 children who have trouble with the law at a high school. 100% of them smoked. 100%. They used it as a quick fix for stress relief. And it was very difficult for me to convince any of them to stop smoking. So a sense of purpose is very important. Having a sense of purpose in life, you're more likely to reach your long-term goals. Your subconscious mind will get you there. If you make a plan, you make a vision, and your subconscious mind hears it, it will remind you and help you lead to the goal. It always will be there. So repeat your purpose every day, what you have in mind. It's very important. It's the immune system and the longevity, for example, that are affected by how you think. For example, you have a cancer spread all over your body, for example. Don't give up. Develop a purpose. I want to go to Johnny's graduation. Start visualizing that a Pac-Man is coming in, eating up your cancer cells. And it has been proven that if you're using mind-body techniques, cancer patients can live twice as long and the spontaneous cure rate goes up. The work of Dr. LaShan and Dr. Simonton have proved that. So don't give up. Religious faith is very helpful, and I think Rick Warren is right. If you have a strong faith, you're much more likely to develop a long-term purpose of helping other people. That's what I'm trying to do. And for example, it gives me a great sense of purpose. So religion, I think, plays a big part, no matter what your religion is. No matter what it is. You don't have to have religion, but it's helpful. It's very helpful. If you have no purpose, many people have poor self-esteem, bad health habits, drugs, cigarettes, overeating, laziness. They age very poorly. So working on a good sense of purpose, I think, is extremely important. We're going to speak a little bit about visualization, a very good thing. It's used in sports quite a bit today, and it's the language of the subconscious mind. If you make a picture, for example, of what you're trying to achieve, for example, golfers, for example, will visualize their shot. All the famous golfers, the best golfers are the ones who can visualize the shot from the beginning to the end, where it's going to land on the green. They even use their senses. They smell the air. They smell the flowers. They see the animal life. They visualize all this, and your brain is more likely going to make this shot perfect. They use visualization, but you can do it in your career. You can do it in your illness. You can do it for wellness. You can visualize what you want to look like 6 months from now. Look in the mirror. Take your clothes off. Visualize what you're going to look like 6 months from now. It's much more likely going to happen. If you paint this picture in your brain. It's a language of the subconscious mind. Create an image of what you want to achieve. The brain does not differentiate from what is real and what is not. So even if you imagine something that you're going to have a new career or a new health habit or whatever you want to achieve, you visualize it, it's much more likely to happen. And it brings your thoughts into action. It brings your thoughts into action. It motivates your 70 trillion body cells. We have about 70 trillion cells. Your brain speaks to it through hormones, neurotransmitters. So your thought process affects your whole body. It's mind-body. body-mind. The body speaks back to the brain through the neuropeptides made by your white blood cells. They manufacture the same darn neuropeptides or neurotransmitters. They'll speak to your brain. So how you think is extremely important. Thinking precedes action. You have to have a thought process before you can make it happen. Image creates energy. It creates energy in your body. It brings thoughts and ideas, pictures into reality. So imaging is a very important thing. I do it all the time. Before I go operate, I image, for example, visualize the operation I'm going to do. It makes it, frankly, go a lot smoother. While I'm washing my hands, I'm visualizing the procedure. Before I play a lot of tennis, so before I serve a ball, I visualize the serve and exactly where it's going to go. And the memory in my brain from years of practice is much more likely to let it happen. So visualization is good for careers, health habits, towards wellness. Very good thing. Then make some affirmative statements to yourself out loud. I'm going to ace the guy. I'm going to sink this golf ball. I'm going to be a musician. I'm going to lose 50 pounds and just look great, and then visualize what you're going to look like. These are affirmative statements. Make them out loud. Make them every day. They're very important. I think it's very motivating to do that. And so imaging is a powerful and mysterious force in the human nature that is able to bring about drastic change in our lives. Mental engineering works best when supported with strong religious faith. And Rick Warren's book, again, I said, it brings faith into it, and I think it's very important. If you have strong faith in what you're doing, that causes secretion of your neuropeptides, and it's much more likely going to happen. So there's a deep tendency in human nature to become precisely like that we image ourselves to be. It's based on evolution. It's in our body. So if you have all these negative images, you're going to become a negative person. You will not achieve anything. If you think you're going to die from cancer in 6 months, you're going to die in 6 months. But if you imagine that you might live 10 years or be cured of the condition, that is much more likely to happen. I don't guarantee it's going to happen, but I had a patient recently that had like a tennis ball in his neck at age 35 for metastatic lung cancer. That was in October. I asked him to visualize, because he was from Syracuse, to be at the head of my pier on July 4th for lunch. When we're talking about, we're talking about months later, 9 months later, but normally he'd been dead by that time. But he knew my pier. So I set up lunch for him. And sure enough, on July 4th, the next year, he appeared to have lunch with me at 2 p.m. And he held up 3 bass he caught under my pier earlier in the day. we cleaned them and ate them for lunch. And so visualization has great value. And the tennis ball lump he had in his neck was gone. And he's still alive. So this has great value. So imagery is positive thinking. It's a laser beam of the imagination. The desired goal is pictured so vividly by the conscious mind. I mean, use your senses. Hear it, see it, smell it. This helps achieve your goal by the unconscious mind, accepts it and activates it. Your mind activates it. Let me tell you a story of Sergeant Gordon and Jim Sharp. Sergeant Gordon was 7 years in a Vietnamese prison, and he was in a very small, claustrophobic little cell, which, frankly, I think would have put me into insanity. You know what he did? At 9 o'clock every day, he visualized playing 18 holes of golf. He did this for 7 years. 4 hours he spent it. And he looked at everything he could remember, the pond, the ducks swimming across the pond, the putts, the hits, everything. And you know what happened after those 7 years? He went and played, when he finally was released, played at the golf course, his favorite golf course, first time out. He shot the best score of his life. It's a true story. It's in a book. Best score of his life. So visualization affects your muscles and can affect your behavior. It's an unbelievable story. Jim Thorpe, famous the athlete, Olympic athlete in the 1930s, on the way to Europe, they're on the ship, and all his fellow Olympians are working every day. They're running, they're lifting weights. Jim Thorpe never did nothing. He just sat on the court and visualized every Olympic event. Visualized the darn thing. You know what happened? He won them all. So he visualized the whole darn thing. It created muscle memory. It's instinct. Don't stop exercising, for Pete's sake. What I'm saying is visualization has value in high-class athletes and in us. I know it works for me. It helped improve my serve. So kind of very interesting stories. And let's look at life-altering events. How can they motivate you to change what you do? My motivating story. This is kind of interesting. And I was in practice July 1, 1969. I had 3 kids. and I had a partner, and we got along fairly well, but not that good, and not that great. We had no big problems. But on New Year's Eve, totally unexpected, 7 p.m., I'm standing there in a tuxedo. I get 3 kids, 2 mortgages, and I wasn't, frankly, making a lot of money. She's never sure about that lake cottage, but retrospectively, it was a good idea. And there's a knock on the door. He's standing there at 7 p.m. He's got a letter in a box. He hands me the letter. It says, I am terminating a partnership as of midnight tonight. I changed the locks in the office and everything in the office in this little box, and you can't use my surgical instruments. Here I am with 3 kids, 2 grandparents living across the street who didn't have any money. Credit cards totally spent because that was the first Christmas I had any money for the children, because going to school all those years, I didn't have any money. And I was really in a deep hole, But instead of just sitting there and doing nothing, I went to work. I started running clinics all over Ohio because I was not a well-known person. There were 7 neurosurgeons here. They're all well-known, and they were done pretty good. And I went to start going to Van Wert and Paulding and Defiance and Bryan, seeing patients, not operating there, screening the patients, bringing back to Fort Wayne, and guess what happened? I got extremely busy. I had to hire 6 other surgeons. I hired 10 neurologists, and now every doctor, every specialty in town copies what I did. That's why the city is so busy in medical care, because we're bringing all these out-of-town patients here because of the great physicians. This attracted great physicians. So I made a plan. I didn't just sit there and stress out, and it's very interesting. And no one told me to do it. I just did it. I worked day and night, 6, 7 years, absolutely day and night. But it's obviously paid off. And I had a vision. I made a vision of having a huge clinic of multi-specialty neurologists, multi-specialty neurosurgeons. That was my vision. It came true. But I acted on it. I didn't sit at home and cry, and I didn't sleep for a few weeks, to be honest with you. But I went to work. So stay calm if something bad happens to you. Don't seek revenge. That's a waste of time. I should think a few nasty thoughts about what the guy did to me, but I forgot that pretty quick. That's of no value. He's out dancing while you're home crying about it. Forget about it. Revenge has no value. Make a plan. Change something. You know what the best revenge is? Success. That's the best revenge. Health threats are the same way. They can be life-altering to you. All of a sudden, you're paralyzed. All of a sudden, you had a heart attack. These are very threatening things. But I don't sit there and obsess about having a heart attack. And if you're 30 pounds overweight, 50 pounds overweight, read the works of Dean Ornish, for example, or the diet books that I've written, and for example, and follow them and make a plan. Make a plan to lose that weight, get in shape, and you can have a great life ahead of you. But don't just sit there and take medicines and do nothing. Make a plan to get to wellness. That's the reason I have 2 yoga studios, so I can teach wellness. Divorce is a very threatening thing, but you can't look back. And first thing I suggest, don't get a divorce. But if you do get a divorce, for Pete's sake, then don't spend all your time obsessing and looking back, and make a plan of your life. And you may need to get a job. You may need to go back to school if you can do it. But you have to sit down, make a plan. Don't panic all night and lose sleep all night. I'd say make a plan and get to work, and dig yourself out of the hole you dug for yourself. And it happens has happened to half America. So it's very important to not sit there and stress out and not to do anything. These are life-altering, threatening events. You have to motivate yourself. Death in the family can be very motivating thing. Death of a spouse is a very threatening thing, and you have to realize that this can cause mind-body diseases. Death in the family more likely to result in death of the spouse of the person. Christopher Reeve dies, and his wife is dead in a year from cancer, from stress. You have to immediately sit down and work on stress reduction techniques, motivate yourself towards wellness, or you can succumb to the nasty chemicals of your body. A serious injury can change us tremendously. But then again, you're in a wheelchair from a bad injury. It's not the end of your life. Recently at my condo in Florida, I couldn't believe it. I met this quadriplegic, paralyzed arms and legs, standing at the pool. And I talked to him because I'm a neurosurgeon. I'm used to seeing these things. And I talked to him a little bit, and I said, well, are you able to work? I said, yeah. He says, I own printing companies all over the world. I print 60% of their wedding invitation all over the world. And he said that I'm the inventor of Post-it notes. He sold the patent to 3M. Isn't that interesting? He didn't sit around. He went to work. Isn't that an interesting thing? So don't panic if there's some threatening, life-altering event. Don't obsess about it. Write out a plan. Take action. Act on it. And believe in a higher power. Believe in God is helpful. And believe in yourself, the ability to change and to get something done. And set goals. Don't accept a disability check if you can. Some people just absolutely need to. But see if you can't go to college and get a job and get to work. And I don't care if you're in a wheelchair or what it is. I've seen the most seriously injured people or from illnesses become extremely successful. And it's your mind. Be thankful every day. I saw a person that, with this condition the other day who, matter of fact, some of the most thankful people I have. I saw a young lady who had rheumatoid arthritis since birth. She was terribly disfigured. But she was such a thankful person. It was hard to believe how a person could be so graceful, and so thankful. It was just, you would not think she'd be that way, but she is one of the finest persons I've ever met. And commitment is another way of motivating yourself. Commit to do something, and is very important. But commitment is more likely to occur if you're consistent in what you're doing. Consistency is very important. If you're consistent in changing your eating habits, big changes down the line will occur. So commit to it. Little changes are very important. It's very motivational. You're trying to lose 50 pounds, you lose 3. That's motivational. It's consistent. Next week you lost another 2. It's consistent. You're consistently doing the same thing, and people respect consistency. You could be dead wrong about your political opinion, but if you're consistent in it, people respect it. But if you bounce from one side to the other all the time, inconsistency, they're not going to respect you as much. It's very instinct in all aspects of life. Even if people don't agree with what you're doing, but as long as you're consistent about it, I think they show you some respect. So there's a lot of leg and lifting power in committing yourself to something. I commit myself to wellness. I commit myself to weight loss, to exercise, to be nicer to people, to looking for a better job. Very important. So consistency is associated with personal and intellectual strength. Very interesting. A strong mind, being able to stop smoking, for example, takes a fairly strong mind. It's not easy. I've seen people face death and still continue to smoke. I've seen people, their legs amputated from Berger's disease, and they continue smoking. And it's not necessarily that they're of weak mind, but I think they need to rethink, what they're doing and motivate themselves to wellness, because bad things are happening to them. And it's very difficult. A lot of it has to do with dopamine. That smoking, for example, makes you feel better, but you got to find a different way of feeling better. And consistency is highly valued in our culture. Inconsistency is an undesirable personal trait. It's two-faced and confusing to people. I mean, you're smoking one day, and I'm going to stop smoking, and then within a month you're back at it again. That's inconsistency. People don't respect that. And or alcohol or drugs or whatever it might be. And a weak mind is easy to say, you're a person is weak-minded, but a lot of times it is with the hormones and chemicals, in their body. And alcoholism, for example, is a big problem in many families. Each drink of alcohol destroys some brain cells, so it's a habit you need to deal with. Breaks some families, a high cause of divorce, high cause of accidents. I see a lot of accidents from alcohol and drugs every weekend. And if you're addicted to drugs, very important. They're taken for anxiety and for anger and for depression. Usually people who do these things have low self-esteem. That's really the cause of it, is low self-esteem. So you need to work on your self-esteem. So make a commitment. Public declaration of your intentions are more motivating and more likely to happen. You say, I'm going to stop smoking. I'm going to change my diet. I'm going to be a more happy person, a less pessimistic person. I'm going to try to get a better job. You make a public statement, it's more likely to happen because it's consistent with something you said before. It's much more likely to happen. It's motivating. It's embarrassing not to carry out your commitment after public declarations to the family or to a spouse. It's embarrassing. And so consistency can become automatic and thoughtless, and you're going to continue doing what you plan to do to change your habit because you are committed to it. And so an increase in your commitment is motivating. You might decide that you're going to lose 3 pounds this month, every month, and then down the line You decide, well, I'm going to start losing 10 pounds a month. So you're increasing your commitment. I think this is good. So once you agree to the request, your attitude may change towards it. You might become more motivated as you increase your commitments. And it's, frankly, in charity it works. I mean, if they can get you to give little amounts of money, maybe one day you can give a bigger amount of money. It shows heck it's worked on me. And so character is the sum of your deeds. Write your commitment down. This is important. When you visualize it, write it down. I think that's quite important. The initial commitment is the key. It can grow legs. It can grow legs. Positive thinking. This is a very interesting subject. I had a patient of mine that I cured his wife of something, and he came in and he saw some of the articles on the wall of my office, and he comes in the next day with, he's going to give me all the books of Norman Vincent Peale, who wrote a lot of the positive thinking books. Great books to read. I can't believe it. This man walked in with 21 books written by Norman Vincent Peale, autographed by Norman and his wife, Ruth. He gave them to me as a present. I could not believe it. I read them all 3 times, so I know a lot about that. And he wrote a lot of the original books of visualization. You can if you think you can, and they're wonderful books to read. And I recommend that you read them. And they're on my website, incidentally. A PowerPoint off of them is my website. I think it's 400 PowerPoints. And you can get them free. Print them right off my website, CashmanMindBody.com, and my studio. So start the day with a positive attitude. I think this is very important. I think it's a very good thing. And I try to every day. Norman Vincent Peale talks about, he was giving a talk in Chicago, and he walked outside. And man, it was so cold, and it was snowing, and it was a terrible day. And this limo driver comes up and gets out of the car. He says, "Isn't this a god-awful beautiful day?" And I thought, isn't that a wonderful thing to say? So Norman said he changed his mind that day, and he looked at the snow and the ice as being a wonderful day. I've been saying that ever since. I see an awful day, I call it a God-wonderful day. Your brain speaks to your 7 trillion cells with neuropeptides, hormones, and neurotransmitters. So when you, how you think is going to affect your whole body. You think nasty thoughts, your whole body feels nasty. You're pessimistic, your whole body is pessimistic. You're optimistic, your whole body feels good. It's just amazing. I know today I had a tough day, and I keep some good music on the radio, and right away some good music came on. And man, my mood changed in seconds. Seconds! I was singing to the music. Actually, I don't know, my friend here was behind me. I was conducting the orchestra, driving down the road, and I'd had a tough day. How quickly it can change. Because my 70 trillion cells responded, obviously, to the music. And so how you think has tremendous effects on how you feel. Negative thinking is a self-destructive process. Negative thoughts lead to negative results. If your thinking does not change, do not expect a different result. If you think it doesn't change, you're not going to get a different result. That came from Einstein. He's absolutely right. So the intel chips of your body, your eicosanoids, respond to your thinking process because of the neurotransmitter and the neurohormones. So positive thinkers send out positive thoughts and creativity. The greatest discovery of our generation is that human beings can alter their lives by altering the attitude of their mind. You see, Descartes cut the head off our body 300 years ago, and we've been studying, what do we got out there? We got organ doctors out there. We get heart doctors, we get liver doctors, we get every doctor of every organ there is, but we don't have many mind doctors. We don't have any doctors that connect the mind to the body. The mind has tremendous effects on your body. Kenneth Pert wrote a book, Molecules of Motion, a great book to read, and it has tremendous effects on our body. So every problem contains the seeds of its own solution. Don't give up. The stock market crashed a couple of years ago. I noticed I froze for a few days on the computer. I do my own trading. Very poor thing to do. There's a solution there. You got to go and get to work and get to it. You can't freeze up. There is a solution there, and I found the solution. And once you find the solution, you're de-stressed. You're much more relaxed. So positive thinkers do not act emotionally when in difficulty. So cool, strong mental control, which produce rational, sound solutions. Calm thoughts produce results. Negative principles negates. The positive principle goes to victory. Inspirations and motivations are like nutrition. They're like nutrition. They pick up your attitude. They pick up your day. I get a plan. I'm going to do this tomorrow. I'm going to write another book. I'm going to see another patient. I'm going to do this instant operation. Have something positive going. I'm going to play tennis on Thursday night or go to a concert on Saturday. These are all positive things where your body responds and make you feel better. Life has an if at the center, but take control of that if. There's a magic in believing in yourself. You must believe in yourself. It doesn't matter how disabled you are. It does not really matter. I've seen the happiest people that are paralyzed right up to here. And still, they're very happy people. And because they have a plan. Krista Reeve had a plan for research and formed foundations. And his positive thoughts, I think, kept him quite happy with a loving wife. So what are problems compared to that? They're nothing. They're nothing. But your health is everything. So step towards wellness. Step towards wellness. And then accept what you have. It's permanent. Accept what you have and move from there. And use imaging and visualization for your health. See your future clearly. See it clearly. Now, you can have a negative visualization. Sometimes it's motivating. You can visualize how bad things are going to be down the line if you don't start losing that weight and getting rid of type 2 diabetes. And you can visualize the amputating your legs and the transplanting your kidney and you're going blind. That's a negative visualization. It may be motivating to you. You see the picture and say, man, I don't want any of that stuff. When I got a 90% chance of curing this disease by eating the proper food, according to Dr. Cashman, and this is true, I'd get to work and get rid of this monkey on your back, type 2 diabetes, for example, which 100 million people are pre-diabetic in this nation. 30 million are diabetic. I see probably two, if you see people, 2 got diabetes. And when it's curable, it's kind of sad. Let's get to work. Get rid of it. And forget the word impossible. You can if you think you can. That's Norman Vincent Peale. You can if you think you can. And so nothing shall be impossible unto you. Like prophecies in the Bible. Some people are happy being defeated. A sick mental attitude. Get rid of it. Get rid of it. It's demotivating. Don't be paralyzed in your head. Don't be paralyzed in your head. And take the I am out of impossible. Faith is the most powerful of all forces, incidentally. It's the most powerful of all forces that you can have. So you can if you think you can. Anything is possible, even advanced cancer. Remember I told you about visualization techniques. Read the work of Carl Symington, the works of LeShan. The Will to Live is another book to read. Those 3 books, they're on my website. Those 3 books can turn a cancer around. People with positive thinking with cancer live twice as long, and the spontaneous cure rate goes up. It's clearly in the literature. I'm ashamed to say a lot of the cancer doctors really don't know how they bring this up. That's shameful. That's shameful because I teach it to cancer patients all the time, and you know what happens to the cancer patients? They do a lot better. I put smiles on their faces. They become hopeful. They live longer. I had a man come to me one time, had a malignant tumor of the brain, and the first thing he said to me, I'm not going to die, Dr. Cashman. Guess what happened? He never died from the tumor. He died years later from something else. It's very interesting. And he was a real big positive thinker. Of course, he went to the right doctor because I took advantage of it, man. I taught that guy everything. I've had people with AIDS with the same thing, turned them into positive thinkers, and their immunity increased. And that, after all, that's an autoimmune disease. I mean, it's a viral immune disease. And I increased, the immunity went up from what I taught them. They started exercising, listening to music, and doing fun things. And now a number of them, full-blown disease never occurred. And so positive thinking and mind-body techniques can double the lifespans, increase spontaneous cure rates. Never quit, or your defeatist attitude will come true. If your doctor walks in, so you can be dead in 6 months, you'll be dead in 6 months, all right. I've seen it. And giving up is a defect in personality. Make your plan and get to work. Persist. Develop a program of hope. Throw hopelessness out the window. Get rid of it. Get rid of it. It's dangerous to use negative words. No donuts that you're shutting the door. And it's demotivating. Change your thinking. Change your thinking process. Persistence principle. Refuse to quit. Be persistent in what you're doing. Just keep after it, and things will change. Things will happen. I know I'm very positive about things, and all these things I'm doing. Periodically, I feel like God threw it at me. I really believe that. I really believe that. It's like walking across campus at Lutherans today, and out of the garage comes this seriously overweight person who had seen me on TV, and she says, well, I always wanted to sign up for your program. I never got to it. I took her hand and walked her over to the Mind Body Institute and signed her up for the weight program. If I hadn't come along, it never would have happened. She just said, well, I'll be there next month. And so I do think God does throw things at me. And if you don't succeed, try again. Perception of yourself is critical. Bring spirituality into it. Remember, you're doing the same thing over and over again. Don't expect a different outcome. You continue the bad habits, nothing's going to happen. You're just going to get worse. And take a realistic look at yourself. We all have to ourselves. I mean, there are things about myself I don't like at times, obviously. But I try to work at it. I don't just accept it. I try to work at it. And so seek knowledge. It leads to self-development. If you get knowledge about your condition or whatever you're trying to change, it helps motivate you. No doubt about that. And I motivate, I think, a lot of people towards weight loss and exercise and things when I give my talks, because I point out to them what's going to happen if they don't. They're going to die young. They're going to amputate their legs. They're going to get diseases. They're going to get cancer. They're more likely to get Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's disease is considered type 3 diabetes today. So you're going to lose your memory if you don't get a proper BMI. It's very important. If you want to live a long life, you got to do that. Seek knowledge. And plugging away will win the day. It's not going to happen like that. Plug away at it. I struggle with what I eat all the time, especially at night after a stressful day. We all have the same problems, but we plug away at it and try to find good snacks to eat and things like that. Problems are a sign of life. They're part of life. You have a great day this week. You may not have a good day next week. It's just the way it is. And most days are good for most of us. We may have a few minutes of a bad day, but that goes away quick enough. Most days are good for most of us. Hope, hopelessness, and optimism. Hopelessness is not a dead-end street. If it looks hopeless for you, you can change things. In alcoholism, for example, if you look at the AA program, they feel that when you reach a state of hopelessness and you're at the bottom, it's only by looking up that you can change. And there's a point to it, but that's not the case for everyone. But if you're at the bottom and they feel religion helps at that point, look towards God. A road to spirituality they found is motivating. They find it motivating. So they have the 12-step program. But remember, spirituality and religion are motivating things, no doubt about it. And advanced addictions, that becomes important. Hopelessness and defeat seems to be the bottom, and the only way you can do is look up at this point to start out. And none of that point, frankly, is about pain and pleasure. You needed the dopamine because of anger, depression, and anxiety to make you feel decent, but you got to find another way to feel decent, to make your mind that you are indeed going to change. So destructive thinking has warped our minds. Only a big move can remove the plague from us. At that point, when you reach the bottom, I mean, you got to decide, hey, it's the end. I do something or I die, tear my family up, get a divorce. You have to move on from there. And we've declared bankruptcy with ourselves. So, but it's not hopeless. It's not hopeless. Hope motivates the good neuropeptides, the hormones, neurotransmitters, and our body goes to work. Remember, the mind speaks to the body. And people with hope do better. Pessimistic cancer shortened the lifespan of the patient by a good 50%. If you're a pessimistic patient with the news, my God, I got cancer, and become depressed, and your doctor's walking in there and counting the months you're going to live, that's ridiculousness. They got to give you some sense of hope. My son one time came to me and said, you know, Dad, I think I know what you're talking about now. He's a neurosurgeon. He had a patient with a brain cancer. It was just a small cancer. It wasn't really big. And he said, how long do you get to live? She had no husband. She had 3 kids. And he says, about 6 months. Didn't say anything else. He didn't say, 10% do pretty good if we do all the things that we need to do. And it gave us some hope. She starts screaming. She never did stop screaming. The next day he does a biopsy again, goes in there, says, yep, it's malignant, you got 6 months to live. Guess what happened? She was dead by the next day. The next day, yeah. The adrenaline in her blood caused fibrillary degeneration of the heart, and she died. Negative thinking. He gave her no hope. And my son realized what I'm talking about, exactly what I'm talking about. You have to give hope to people. And Dr. LaShannon, a famous psychiatrist in New York, 45 years, lived within 3 blocks of my house in New York. Never met the guy, but I lived down the street from the Metropolitan Museum of Art. He would walk people through the museum for about 45 minutes, about once a month. He would walk his patient through there with metastatic breast cancer. And guess what happened? After 5 years, he restudied her, no cancer. He had lunch with her, talked about positive things, looked at her art for 30 minutes afterwards, and after 5 years, there was no cancer in the body. And he writes it in his book. He found people that his hopeless patients died a lot quicker. His hopeful patients lived a lot longer. Great book to read. Dr. LaChanze and Dr. Symington, the same thing. He talked about mind-body techniques to cure cancer, positive thinking. The Will to Live by Hutschenegger, very good book to read. If you can increase the will to live, you live longer. All positive thinking stories. And so hope is motivating. It says that you believe so that you have the will and the way to accomplish your goals. Optimism is a great motivator. Authority is another way of motivating somebody. For example, I'm a doctor and I get some degrees and I'm a little bit known around here. So when I start talking about books and lectures and CDs and give my lectures, some people follow my advice, no doubt about it, because I'm a sort of authority figure. So a lot of other people. So listening to books and lectures, CDs and DVDs can be motivating. They can be. So listen to motivating DVDs, I think, is with value. There's a genetic tendency in us to listen and to follow an authoritative figure. When you look at world wars and things, you can see that people follow authoritative figures. So you got to realize too, who are you following? I mean, you got to be darn sure that it's a good person, of course. And but there's a deep-seated sense of duty in most of us. So authority can lead to the good health, jobs, and relationships. The appearance of authority can even be enough. He dresses well. He's on TV. So the symbols and appearance do make a difference. It can trigger compliance. Con artists, for example, that drape themselves in the symbols of authority when they're not. So you got to be a little careful. And so strong pressure from society to comply with authority, separate fiction from facts is very important thing. Qigong is a yoga method, which really is a good method of stilling your mind. I do some of it. They do it in my yoga studio. So it's an Asian way of mindfulness, and is a slow moving physical activity, but you're mindful while you're doing. You're paying attention to your muscle motions, for example. You're paying more attention how you're thinking when you do Qigong or Tai Chi or any of those activities. It's a way of leading to longer changes in thinking process and leads to great results. It's an Asian Chinese system of self-activation. So do some Tai Chi or Qigong will help you control your mind. It's a good way to learn mind control and change your purpose in life and your health habits. I find it very good in my yoga studio. A lot of patients take my weight classes, go into these classes, and find that they can really change their lifelong habits. And the responsibility for protecting health, vitality, and prolonging life while cultivating spiritual awareness and insight, that's Qigong, that's Tai Chi. Kundalini yoga, terms that you hear. Also, it's based on Taoist philosophy, Chinese philosophy. It's the fundamental forces of the cosmos. This is not religion. It's good to look at Asian. I give a lecture on Asian medicine. I think it's very good. They look at the essence and the energy and the chi on your body. Since 75% of patients, all they need is a coach, you can see that could treat 75% of our people at a very low risk, low cost method. So don't just throw the towel in on it. Western medicine has a great place. I love Western medicine. But 75% of people could, frankly, do Asian medicine a lot cheaper, a lot safer. And I encourage you to look at Qigong and Tai Chi and yoga type things. And it's consistent with the elemental energy of nature and harmonizes them. They talk about the essence, the energy, and the spirit. Qigong relates to the infinite power of the universe. And Qi means breath, air, donates energy and vitality. You hear about the Chinese talking about the Qi, the energy of your body. Acupuncture, for example, is moving Qi around your body. Gong is the general term meaning work. So it's energy work. So it's a slow body movement in a poetic way with mindfulness. Energy and movement, everything in this work is energy and movement. You can do it at any age. You go to China, Hong Kong, you see people getting up at 5 in the morning. Along the river doing Qigong and Tai Chi is a beautiful thing to watch. Do it at any age. It's a beautiful thing to watch. So it's slow movement with mindfulness and meditation. The Tao is the way, T-A-O, it's the way. It's a way of life. The Tao is a way of life, a more mindful life. Motivates you to healthy life. Throw out the bad habits. Consider the consequences of your action. Meditation. What's meditation? Meditation can be used to heal your mind. It's psychoneuroimmunology. It's how your mind affects your neuropeptides, your neurotransmitters. Then I have a specialty out of it. It's called PNI, psychoneuroimmunology. It can affect your immunity of your body. And this is produced by the hypothalamus, the Wizard of Oz, your brain's brain, at the base of your brain. The metabolic center is affected by meditation, by deep breathing techniques. The meditation brings you into the moment, the present moment. You don't think about the past, the storm of the past, or the tsunami of the future. You think of the present moment. No matter what your day is, if you start meditating into the present moment, the present time, it's very relaxing. No matter what your problem is, if you bring yourself to the present moment, you're sitting there. After all, you are indeed alive, and it's a very motivating, relaxing thing. Calming thoughts are healing. So mindful yoga meditation, I highly recommend. And any activity can be meditation. You can do the dishes as long as you're paying attention to the dishes, you're looking at the colors, you're looking at everything, and this is what you're paying attention to. That's meditation. That's meditation. It's easy to do. Use some deep breathing techniques with it that secrete your own endorphins, make you feel better. Visualize what you're trying to accomplish in life. It's much more likely to happen. And a meditation and visualization work together very well. And a meditation in the breath is based on breathing techniques. A very good habit to sit there under a stressful situation, maybe in the office, maybe early in the morning at home, maybe at night with the kids in bed. Sit there and do some meditation. If you can't quiet your mind, you can't get it to bring to the present moment, say a mantra. Mantra is mind energy. Repeat the same word, something of that nature. God, God, Jesus, Jesus, or whatever. Pick a word. Om, Om, Om. Pick a word. And it will quiet your mind. It doesn't matter what the word is, but keep on repeating it. It will bring your mind to the present moment. Meditation helps drop blood pressure. I know it works for me. My blood pressure up in the morning a little bit. I do some meditation, 20 deep breaths. I visualize walking down the pier and we're looking at the sunset of the lake, and repeat Om, 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 a mantra, and my blood pressure drops 20 points every time. And so mantra is mind energy. And Kundalini yoga and meditation, that's exercise and yoga. But meditation brings calmness. It's a hypometabolic state. Your metabolism slows down. It increases serotonin, the good feel drug, noradrenaline, the good feel drug, dopamine, the good feel drug, and your own endorphins. Endorphins are your own morphine. You can bring out your own morphine by breathing techniques. Recently, a chiropractor in town, his wife had a baby at Lutherans, and I go up there to see her. She was a Russian lady, and I asked her what she'd used for pain control during the baby. She says, Dr. Cashman, I attend all your lectures. All I did is deep breathing techniques, meditative techniques. I had no pain. I'm not suggesting don't get an epidural block, but it sure as heck worked for her. It can work for you to reduce pain problems, to bring calmness to your life. And meditation, I do some every day. Meditators have less vascular disease, less strokes, less heart disease, 50% less cancer. They sleep better, less insomnia, 50% decrease in pain, for example. Meditation, there's medical meditation where you can meditate, for example, on heart disease and liver disease through some visualization techniques like Simonton's work. Visualize your cancer going away and you're urinating it out of your body in combination with meditation. It has value. Pick a quiet environment. Meditate in a passive attitude, a comfortable position. Use a mental focus. Use breathing techniques. Use a mantra to quiet your mind. Dr. Herb Benson has published a great deal. I've met him. And self-talk, a very motivating thing, how we talk to ourselves. I am, become what you think. Use the word I am. You become what you think. I can achieve my highest potential. I believe in me. I can win. I believe I can. Everything contains opportunity to me. And speak to yourself like this, self-talk. I set and achieve goals that stretch me personally, professionally, and spiritually. That's motivating. It is motivating. It increase your habits. It's speaking to your unconscious, subconscious mind. I'm health, wealth, success, and happiness. That's very motivating. It's much more likely to achieve when you start thinking like this. So there are three kinds of people. People that make things happen, people that watch things happen, and other people that allow things to happen. Very motivating thought process. With that, I'd like to summarize my thought of the day. I don't have bad days. I only have bad minutes. I only have bad minutes. This was taught to me by a lady I met at McDonald's the other day. I thought that was a good piece of philosophy. And if you'd like to contact me, for example, you can call our yoga studios or send an email to cashmanmindbody.com. We have a wonderful website. It's all about wellness. It's all about wellness. I have DVDs and books there on cancer of the mind, cancer and stress, cancer and how to control pain, how to properly eat. Secret of the Nun Diet is a book I have for adults. Secret of the Nun Diet for children. I have a book coming out shortly on nocebo, the evil twin, the opposite of the placebo effect, how to avoid unnecessary tests, unnecessary injections, how to avoid unnecessary operations. A very interesting book. I have a book coming out shortly on motivation, this lecture right here, and a DVD that will be available. And I'm doing a book on the secret of enhancing your brain and longevity, how to live to be 100 and be intelligent. A very interesting book that I'm writing. I have another book I'll call Welcome to Your Mind Body, the effects of your mind on your body. And that's, if you look to my left, to your right, you see the Mind Body Index, a name that I legally own, where I've listed all the mind-body diseases, all the illnesses and diseases caused by the mind, from fibromyalgia to irritable bowel to depression to obesity to skin diseases. A significant number of skin diseases are caused by stress. I saw a patient the other day who had this condition, and I put him in the yoga studio, practice stress reduction techniques, and the skin rashes disappeared. So when 75% of the people that we're all looking at as physicians could use stress reduction techniques to get rid of their illness instead of injection, or instead of drug addiction, instead of an operation, that's very important. I do see a lot of drug addiction in this area for drugs given for benign conditions like fibromyalgia. The majority of patients I see with that, they have no living idea why they're taking the medication. They say, I hurt, and their physician wrote them this prescription. Don't let that happen to you. There have been 90 deaths in our counties around here from physician prescriptions for narcotics. Don't accept a narcotic. Ask, could I try something else? Could I try some yoga? Could I try some stress reduction? Could I do some exercise? Could I get a massage? These illnesses here, I've listed these 20 illnesses up here in the Mind Body Index, which you can print off of my website, are stress diseases. They're stress illnesses. They can be totally treated conservatively without life-threatening medications. And I encourage you to do that. And then I would, if you have any of these health habits of being overweight, of not exercising, of having too much anxiety, having too much pain, all these techniques can help you a great deal and without the cost, and save you, frankly, a lot of money. You would save a lot of money if you practice these techniques. Like at my yoga studio, things are quite cheap, for example. Instead of succumbing to heart disease, type 2 diabetes, which I see all day long in my practice, I think to do some of these yoga techniques and Tai Chi techniques and Qigong techniques, I think are extremely helpful to relax the mind. They're also physical exercise. They're also meditation. I myself, for example, do yoga twice a week, then work out at Anytime Fitness, which is part of our yoga system now. Use some heavier weights twice a week, and I play tennis 3 days a week. And play tennis tournaments, but I'm only 39 years old, and these things work, and I feel good every day. So I hope to pass this on to you, but I think that you will have to believe and that you can accomplish these things. In some of the conditions, certainly that I'm looking at, it would take an awful lot of motivation, but I think you can do it. I believe in you. I believe in you. I think anybody can change their habits. And some are just more difficult than others. I believe you can do this. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity of letting me speak to you from my heart, and I thank you very much, and I hope you read some of my books and some of our DVDs and listen to some of our lectures on Public Access TV that are available every Monday from 9 to 10 all year long. I hope you join me in that. Feel free to email me or contact me. Thanks so much.